166 for two is where things have ended on the first day's play at the Sydney Cricket Ground. First bit of cricket for Australia in 2021, and it's probably their best day with the bat. We lost about 25 overs of play due to rain, but we still see Australia in a pretty commanding position after winning the toss. On ESPN Cricket for Matchday, Akash Chopra with me, so too Michael Hussey. Let's go to Huss straight up. And conversation was all about whether Australia's batting would regain its form, and it seems to have worked on day one. Huss, thoughts on what you saw?
Yeah, it was a good day for Australia, I think. But I think probably the first Test match where the pitch conditions have been favourable for batting. You know, you think back to Adelaide, where it was a day-night Test match. The pink ball generally does a fair bit. Melbourne had good pace and bounce and lots of grass on the pitch. So the bowlers were really enjoying the first two Test matches. But this looks like a beautiful batting pitch at the SCG. The batsman can trust the bounce. And I think the biggest cue for that is that we saw a lot of straight drives today, and we probably haven't seen a lot of straight drives throughout the series. And when a batsman's hitting the ball down the ground, means they can trust the bounce and the pace and feel confident playing their shots. I think there's some good signs. I think Will Pucovski, the way he came in and played in his first Test match innings was fantastic. Yes, he certainly had a little bit of luck along the way, but he looked like he could handle the level, no worries at all. And then, yeah, I thought Labuschagne and Steve Smith, an important partnership for Australia at the end, both looked very comfortable on the surface.
Now, after two Test matches that have just been an examination of batting, Akash, in this series, as a batsman, are you pleased to see that the Sydney of old, the sort of pitch that even you wouldn't mind batting up to in this at this age, is back for us to?
No. I'm well past that point. So even a flat pitch would look like an unplayable pitch for me at this stage. It looked actually pretty much unplayable back in the day as well. But anyhow, let's get back to the point. You know, Test cricket, and this is what international cricket is all about, where there will be examination by pace on certain pitches. You go to certain pitches and there you'll be tested against spin. But at some stage, the bowlers will also be tested because the conditions are so flat. Of course, we as viewers, as outsiders, you would want every single pitch to be spicy. A lot in it for the bowlers, be it the faster bowlers or the spinners, if both even more wonderful. But then once in a while, this sort of pitch is not too bad either. So there is, I think, the slowness of the surface is making a lot of difference. Sideways movement, of course, the lack of grass, and moisture. But it's the slowness of the surface that allows you to also sit back and adjust. And that's what we saw against Ravichandran Ashwin. How he was handled off the back foot was something that we did not see in the first two Test matches. The pitches were difficult for the faster bowlers, but the fact that the ball was zipping through the surface, therefore Ashwin was threatening a lot more. But here he could be neutralized because you could score off the back foot. You're just getting a little more time. That fraction extra of the surface came to batsman's ally.
Yeah, that's one story of the day, right? Ashwin going wicketless after the sort of series that he's had. Now, yes, you'll have both established it's been a good day for batting. But that having been said, Huss, we did see the intent from Steve Smith quite early on against our Ashwin. He's gone wicketless today. There was a chance of Will Pucovski, but has that been Australia's biggest mini victory, that they've kept Ashwin wicketless, they've taken him on today?
Well, it was really interesting after the Melbourne Test match, which obviously finished early on what would have been day 5. Tim Paine, Marnus Labuschagne, Steve Smith came back to the MCG and had a bit of a hit in the nets. Now, apparently they only batted for a short period of time, but they did a lot of talking, and they were particularly talking about their strategies against Ashwin and how they could rotate the strike more and should they be taking a more positive intent towards him. So I think they've sort of had some good conversations there and brought those strategies into this Test match, because they certainly did look to be a lot more proactive against him. They were looking to use their feet more, which I think was a good tactic to try and get Ashwin to change his lengths a little bit. Because they were able to use their feet and come down the pitch, then they got the odd short ball, which particularly Labuschagne was able to get back and cut through the offside as well. So, yeah, good batting from the Australians to try and put a bit of pressure back on to Ashwin and make his margin for error a lot smaller. So, yeah, Ashwin will do some thinking tonight, and I'm sure he'll bounce back, pretty hard tomorrow.
Akash, anything on whether you'd have liked to see Ashwin do anything differently at all? There was a little bit of right arm around the wicket. That's how he got Labuschagne previously in the series. He's gone at over 3 and over. His thoughts on whether Ashwin could have done more today?
We've gotten used to Ravichandran Ashwin almost tying down the opposition in this series, even on day one. Even in the first session of the first day of a Test match in Melbourne. But this is normal service, right? This is a day one pitch in Australia. It's not Rajkot or it's not a Turner in Delhi. it is a good surface to bat. And this is how it is going to pan out 9 out of 10 times if the batsmen are willing to show some amount of intent. So this is exactly what has happened. They did not allow Ashwin to settle down. And you also know for sure that you're bowling first. There is a good partnership building. How much more can you attack? Because the intent, the difference that the intent made, in my opinion, was that Smith was only in his 20s and he had a deep long on. He had a deep mid wicket. Which allows you to now rotate strike a lot better because you've already shown the intent. You've gone over the top a couple of times, and that's all it takes. It doesn't take like a barrage of sixes. It's just that intent you show, and the bowler is now forced to go on the defensive. There was only one short leg fielder, backward short leg, nothing in the front. So things start changing from there onwards. And as a fielding captain, as a bowler also, you know that you're not going to pick a wicket every ball. So you've got to have some defensive options up your sleeve. Otherwise, the batsman will just run away with the game. This is how the test match ebbs and flows. And this was absolutely normal for a first day pitch, first day bowling by a spinner on a good batting surface.
I'm actually curious to know what you guys make of putting that long on back, or putting that mid on back for the off spinner fairly early. I've actually heard the Indian captain, whether it's Kohli, whether it's Rane, a lot of modern day captains think it's not necessarily just defensive, because you're asking the batsman to push, and that brings your close-in fielders on the leg side into it. It's not as easy when the ball's turning. On the other hand, if you look at it and you think, oh, that's an easy single on offer. How's from what you saw?
Well, I think what spinners like to do, and Nathan Lyon does much the same, to be honest, that they like to have what's called an in-out field. So you know, they have the fielder back at long on, which protects the boundary, I guess. But also what they're trying to say to the batsman is we're happy for you to come down and try and knock the ball down the ground, but we'll make sure we have a couple of catches in on the leg side. And Ashwin, for various stages, did have a fielder just sort of next to the pitch on the leg side and a catching mid-wicket as well. So what he was probably trying to hope was to deceive the batsman in the air, think that they can just tap it down to long on for a single. If they don't quite get to the pitch of the ball, then they might chip up a little catch to one of those close-in fielders on the leg side. So that was probably the plan, but also excellent batting conditions, and probably didn't want the score to get away from him too much. And so it sort of protects a boundary option for the Aussies too.
Yeah, they've gone it over 3 and over. Ravindra Jadeja came on very late in the day, Akash. Navdeep Saini got just the 1 over before that delayed tea interval. What about Rahane's day as captain? Would you like to see either of those bowlers come earlier?
Yes, hindsight is perfect vision. But then we saw the same thing happen to Siraj in the first test match, where he didn't bowl a single over in the first session. And it's not normal when you play 3 fast bowlers and one of the fast bowlers doesn't get to bowl at all. This happened now with Navdeep Saini. So that's Rahane's way of handling a debutant is what we actually can make of this small sample. But both should have bowled more. And Navdeep Saini should have come in a little earlier. They should have bowled a few more bouncers to Pucovski, who's got some amount of discomfort when it's short and into his body. And Ravindra Jadeja should have bowled a little more for sure. Even at the end, like getting 1 over from Navdeep Saini wouldn't have really given you a lot of hope, because he was not in the middle of a spell. Jadeja was, and he was making you play every single ball. So maybe he might have missed a trick or two, but that's what captaincy is, because he has to take the decision instinctively at that point in time. And we have the luxury of reflecting back at all those decisions and then criticize and dissect. This went right and that did not.
Yeah, I mean, there's always that temptation, us, that you want to have either Bumrah or Ashwin, if not both, bowling almost all the time, including when a new batsman comes in, especially with how Ashwin had the wood over Steve Smith. Was that in some ways the reason that they were guilty of not bowling, Rahane was guilty of not bowling Jadeja earlier?
Well, yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because remember, Saini got his first wicket. He got Pucovski out and Steve Smith came to the crease. And because Saini got that first wicket, he probably thought, well, let's keep him going. You know, the adrenaline will be pumping. His confidence might be up a little bit. But what that enabled was, Steve Smith to get in. And, quite often when he's come to the crease, Steve Smith's had Ashwin sort of already bowling to him. So by the time Ashwin came on, Steve Smith had already sort of faced 20 or 30 balls and was probably a little bit more comfortable with the conditions. I agree. I thought Jadeja should have come on a little bit earlier. Even the couple of overs that he bowled, he was getting some turn. And the pace that he was bowling was probably better for this SCG pitch. Because the pitch is quite slow, probably need to be a spinner that's bowling a touch quicker as well. So he was getting the ball to angle into the right-handers and just get a couple to bite quite sharply. So I thought Jadeja actually looked reasonably dangerous and perhaps, potentially could have come into the attack a little bit earlier.
All right. Credit to Australia's batsmen. Now, Akash has already told us he was impressed with what he saw of Will Pucovski, and there's a lot that he came into this series with us, but he did lose David Warner early. Just your thoughts on Will Pucovski's first innings in Test match cricket, like what you saw?
Oh, I did. Yeah, I really did. He played beautifully. Good, solid defence. I loved how he was presenting the full face of the bat, and looking to hit the ball down the ground. I think bowlers around the world will have a look at how far across the crease he goes and how he got out will be something bowlers definitely target in the future. But generally speaking, he goes across, but still look to play the ball down the ground. And when he did that, I thought he looked in control. I also thought once his innings started to blossom, he started to play some really nice attacking shots and off the back foot, punching through the offside. There's a couple of pull shots there as well. So he's made a lot of runs in the Sheffield Shield competition. He's scored 3 double centuries already in his career. He's only 22 years of age. So once he gets in, he generally goes on and gets a big score. Certainly had some luck today. I agree with Akash as well. I think teams will test him out with the short ball as well. He has been hit in the head and had a number of concussion problems. Plus, there was a couple of top edge hook shot attempts as well. So, he's certainly not the finished product, but I thought he looked very composed at the crease. Simple, basic technique, and he's got some good runs under his belt. So, for an Australian fan, I'd be pretty excited for the future with Will Pucovski.
No, Akash had this theory, and I'll come to Akash in a bit, but we discussed this in the Tea Time show, has that there seems to be a huge influence of Steve Smith on young upcoming batsmen. Is that now a trend? Everyone doesn't mind walking across their stumps with, opening up that potential risk, which Akash said in his day would be scary to even try on. Do you see that with young batsmen up and coming?
Without doubt. And if you take it down another 10, 15 years younger, there's a million young kids that I see playing, junior cricket all around Australia that are doing the exact same thing. But the worst thing is they're doing the leagues like Steve Smith and Marnus Labuschagne as well. So you see these horrible little things that Smith and Labuschagne do. The kids are doing them as well. So unfortunately, we might be seeing some junior Steve Smiths and Marnus Labuschagnes for the next 15 years to come.
Akash?
No, that's not a very friendly sight. But as an opponent, you end up looking at the runs, and if they're half as good as Steve Smith and Marnus Labuschagne, I'm sure Australia will be smiling, and we are in for some quality cricket. But then, see, the one thing that Smith does very well, and Pucovski also did very well, is the fact that we mentioned that, okay, he plays with a straight bat, but that's possible only if your head is not falling. You're walking across, but your head is still. If the head is still, only then the bat comes down straight. And those basics have to be absolutely spot on. Even if you're moving, there are certain things that are non-negotiables, like your head falling. So he will work on it, but then there are certain things that are already in place. And that's what makes Steve Smith such a phenomenal player. And it gives us some good signs for things to come for Will Pucovski as well.
All right, let's get a quick preview to tomorrow now. Glenn McGrath said on the broadcast here in India that he expects this pitch to actually quicken up a bit. Just your thoughts from what you've seen. I don't know how much weather there's still around in Sydney over the next few days, but is this going to be one big, batting fest over the next few days? It could possibly be the first test to go to 5 days. It could break that 100 jinx that Akash keeps ringing up for Aussie batsmen in recent times. Are we in for one of those 400-500 sort of test matches?
Well, I think in the last 5 or 6 test matches at the SCG, the average first innings score is about 450. So this pitch seems to be playing pretty well. So I would expect Australia's plan to be get as many runs as they possibly can in the first innings. Steve Smith has obviously been very light on runs, so he'll be very determined to score a big 100 for Australia. So I think the Indian bowlers are going to have to work hard. Australia will get a pretty decent first innings score. They'll still be nervous because they haven't actually done it that consistently for a long time against India, really. So that'll still be in the back of their mind. But if they take that same mindset and confidence out to the middle, then I predict Australia to get a pretty decent first innings total. And it'll be a good test match. It'll be one of those good, tough, grinding test matches. Traditionally speaking, you're right. The SCG pitch starts a little bit slow, can quicken up on days 2 and 3, and then just start to deteriorate. And that's where the spinners can come into play, and still decent for batting, but it can also just go up and down a little bit with some variable bounce too. So it's generally a magnificent test pitch, but certainly in the favour of the batsman.
Akash, what's the plan of attack? for India?
See, it's going to be tough. India is, of course, without Shami, without Umesh, without Ishant. It's a slightly lighter fast bowling attack. Two rookies, one playing his second game, the other is actually making his debut. Spinners will have to do a lot of bowling. But I actually feel with some amount of rain and the way the test match should unfold, unfold in terms of an Indian fan or Indian perspective, I'm looking at a draw. So 450, 500, whatever Australia scores, India goes close to it. This pitch may still not have enough venom in it to take 20 wickets. You will need a lot of Nathan Lyon, quality of Nathan Lyon to dismiss India twice. Otherwise, I see this actually to be a good batting. It is a good batting surface. It could be a good batting test match. And that century, I've mentioned it earlier, that Australian century, if it doesn't come in this test match, then I'll be very, very surprised. There will be a century either in this innings or in the next.
All right. You know what? I'm getting used to those first two test matches now where heaps of wickets fall and we have so much more to discuss. I'm pretty much done with everything I want to cover with Mike Hussey and Akash Chopra on day one. Yes, it's been a rain-curtailed day. It's been a good day for batting, a good day for Will Pucovski. Big thank you to Mike Hussey and Akash Chopra. Join them tomorrow as well, as we hope to have a full day's play at the SCG. Australia's day on day one, and what is the first bit of international cricket for both sides in 2021. And of course, if you're watching in the Indian subcontinent, don't forget you can catch clips, highlights, all the action as it has unfolded in this test as well as the next one on ESPNcricinfo.com and the mobile app. Do join us then on day 2 for ESPN Cricinfo Match Day, and this test rolls along in what is a deliciously poised series at 1-1.